Hey everyone, my name is Jay. I'm one of the expert teachers here at E2 Language. Now, you're here because either you have taken the PTE before and you've been unsuccessful, or you're about to take the PTE for the first time and you probably have no idea what you're about to face. So what we're going to do in this lesson is look at a method, and this is going to be Methods 2.0. I've done methods before that are on YouTube and they're good, but these ones are going to be better. Now, just keep in mind that only half of these methods will be on YouTube. The other half are over on the e2language.com website. So in this one, we're going to look at speaking read aloud. Let's take a look. So speaking read aloud method 2.0. So this is the first task that you will see on test day, okay? It's pretty straightforward. Basically, you'll have time to rehearse a paragraph of text, and then you'll have time to read it aloud as clearly as you possibly can. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? What we're going to do in this lesson is go into this in depth because it does seem straightforward. Just read the paragraph aloud. But in order to maximize your scores, you need to understand a lot about pronunciation, a lot about oral fluency, and a lot of the little intricacies that are involved in pronunciation and oral fluency. That's what we're going to learn. Okay, here are the simple instructions. So you have time to rehearse the paragraph. You have about 30 or 40 seconds to rehearse. Then you will begin to speak or read aloud, and it will begin to record you. And again, you have 30 to 40 seconds to do that. Just keep in mind that you get a certain time to read aloud. Let's say you get 35 seconds, but you may read the paragraph in 25 seconds. And so after you're done reading, as it says here, you just simply click next. Okay, here are some facts about this particular task. So on test day, you're going to see about 6 or 7 of them. It has integrated scoring. That is, the scores contribute points to more than just one skill. They contribute points to both your reading and your speaking scores. So if you have been having trouble with your reading scores or your speaking or both, this task is important. Now, most importantly, you are scored on 3 things. You're scored on content, you're scored on pronunciation, and you are scored on oral fluency. That's what we're going to look at in this lesson. And by the end, you're going to know how to do this perfectly. Let's take a look at scoring for content, which is pretty straightforward. Scoring for content means that you read the paragraph and you don't add any words, you don't skip any words, and you don't replace any words. Just let me briefly explain what I mean there. So let's talk about adding words. So for example, you might say something silly like, therefore the quality of, and you might accidentally add a word like the when the word the is not there. So don't do that. So quality of the sound, it just says quality of sound. Okay? So don't add any words. That's straightforward. Second, don't skip words. Let's say you're reading along and you say, varnish does more than just provide a sheen to a violin, and you have accidentally missed out this word here, protective. So don't skip any words. That's also important. And the third one is don't replace any words. Let's say you're reading along down here and you're doing really well, and then you say, into the wood are all interesting factors. Now the word here is important. You have accidentally said the word interesting. You're going to lose a point for that. Anyway, that's content. That's straightforward. Simply read the paragraph and all the words that are on the screen. Now, we're going to do a little bit of practice. And throughout this video, we're going to read the same paragraph a number of times. And each time we read it, we're going to learn something new about how to speak and deliver your speech properly. So usually on test day for a paragraph of this size, you would have about 35 seconds to prepare and 35 seconds to read aloud. But I'm just going to give you 25 seconds because we're going to read it so many times. So let's take a look. And this is the first practice. You'll have 25 seconds to not stuff up the content. Don't add words, don't skip words, don't replace words, and go. Okay, easy peasy, pudding and pie, you did that. Hopefully you got the content 100% right. Fine. Now it gets a bit harder. Let's have a look at pronunciation, okay? Okay, now pronunciation consists of various sub-elements. First of all, you need to know how to pronounce consonants, right? Consonant clusters, vowels, and also word stress would fall under pronunciation. We're going to look at each of these in detail and do a little bit of practice, okay? So let's start by looking at consonants. Okay, so just briefly, if I quickly show you in this paragraph all the consonants, they're the words, the sounds like V or N or D or S or M or in fact the, J, P, V, etc. Okay? So a consonant is a sound that we make, and why it's a consonant and not a vowel is that consonants are obstructed by some part of your mouth, either your tongue, your teeth, your lips, something like that. When I say P or D or K, maybe my throat as well. That's what a consonant is. And in English, I believe there are 21 consonants. Let's just quickly go through them. So there's B, K, D, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, N, P. I have no idea about Q. I think it's like K as well. R, S, T, V. I have no idea about X. It's a weird letter. Z, W, and Y. And Y is kind of like a vowel. Anyway, they are the consonants. If you're having any trouble at all with pronouncing English consonants, because in your first language, obviously there's going to be a difference between the consonants, then check out a website called e2school.com. It's a really good website for English language learning, and there's a course on there called Speaking Lab that helps you to pronounce these consonants clearly. They shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully they're not. Anyway, let's do it again. I want you to be conscious of consonants when you read the paragraph again. Cool bananas. All right, let's have a look now at consonant clusters because, well, consonants are easy. Consonant clusters are when it gets pretty tough. Let's take a look. Okay, so if we look in this paragraph here, you now know what a consonant is. But let's look a little bit more closely because usually you have consonant, vowel, consonant, right? But sometimes you just have consonant, consonant with no vowel between them, like pr. Here's another pr. Or a sh, sh, two consonants together. Or fl, influences. Or br, as in vibrations. Okay, this is when it starts to get hard. What else have we got? Here's an interesting one. There's actually three consonants together. Str, instrument, instrument. Now, some of you are going to find the consonant clusters pretty straightforward because in your language you actually have consonant clusters. Some languages don't have consonant clusters. So that's why, for example, Koreans or Japanese have difficulty saying consonant clusters. So instead of saying protective, perhaps the Japanese or Korean speaker will say protective, protective, because what you want to do is add a vowel between the two consonants. But we don't do that in English. And if you want to sound natural, you have to say protective, or what was it? Instrument, not instrument, instrument. Anyway, let's have a closer look at some consonant clusters now. Unfortunately, there are literally dozens and dozens, possibly even hundreds of different combinations of consonant clusters. Here are some very common ones. So we have bl, for example. Here's a common consonant cluster. Bl, blab, black, blackberry, blackbird. Br, brace, bracelet, bracket, brad. Ch, chain, chair, chalk, challenge. Cl, clad, claim, clairvoyant, clam. Cr, crab, crack, cracker, crackle. Now I'm showing you these ones here. These are all coming at the beginning of the word. Keep in mind that consonant clusters can come in the middle of the word or at the end of the word as well. Anyway, this is just to raise your awareness of them. And if you want, you can pause the video and actually practice saying these out loud, especially if they're ones that you find difficult from your first language. Let's keep going. Page number 2. So we have dr, as in drab, draft, drag, dragon. We have fl, as in flab, flap, flag, and flagship. We have fr, fraction, fragile, fragment, fragrant. We have gl, glacier, glad, glade, and gladiator. We have gr, grab, grace, graceful, gracious. Let's keep going. Pl, place, placid, plagiarize, plague. Pr, prairie, prance, pray, precipitate. Sk, scab, scabbard, scad, scaffold. I have no idea what scabbard or scads means. Actually, that's kind of terrible words, scab and scads. Sh, shack, shade, shadow, shake. Sk, skate, skateboard, skate park, skedaddle. Ha, it's a funny word. 4, sl, as in slab, slack, slain, slam. Sm, smack, small, smallpox, smarmy? I have no idea what smarmy means. Sn, snack, snag, snail, snake. Sp, spar, space, spacecraft, spacious. St, stab, stable, stack, stadium. Sw, swab, swaddle, swagger, swallow. Th. Now, a lot of you are going to have trouble pronouncing this th sound. It's very idiosyncratic to English. That means not many other languages use this sound, this th sound. Words like than, thank, thaw, and that. Tr, as in trace, tragic, track, tract. Tw, as in twang, 20, tweak, and tweed. W, as in whale, wharf, what, and wheat. R, as in rack, wraith, wrangle, rap. Sk. Now here we move from 2 consonants together to 3 together. This is the first time we see the sh or sk sound. So schedule, schematic, scheme, and scherzo. I have no idea what that means. Shre, as in shrank, shrapnel, shred, shrew. Sf, that one is hard to say. Sf, 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 as in sphagnum? No idea. Sphere, spherical, spheroid, sphincter, sphinx. Spl, as in splash, splashdown, splat, splatter, splay, for example. And the last page we have spr, as in sprain, sprang, sprawl, and spray. Squirt, as in squab, squabble, squad, or squadron. Str, as in straight, strain, straight, and strand. And thr, as in thrash, thread, threat, and 3. Cool bananas, they are the consonant clusters. All right, now please read this again. What I want you to do is pay attention to or be conscious of the consonant clusters that you see as you read, okay? Let's try to get it right. Here we go, you have 25 seconds. Okay, cool. Let's just talk very briefly about vowels because I want to move into the juicy stuff which comes next. Okay, so you are scored on the way that you pronounce your vowel sounds. Short vowel sounds like a, e, I, o, a. And long vowel sounds like a, e, I, o, u, right? They are the short and long vowel sounds. Again, If you need any help with your basic pronunciation of consonants or vowels, check out e2school.com. You can sign up to our Speaking Lab course. It's a ripper if you want to improve your basic pronunciation. Okay, then you have these things called combined vowels or diphthongs. This is like when you're putting two vowel sounds together. So it's not a or a, it's something like a, as in pay. It's not o and oi, I can't even do that. It's like oi, 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 y, as in y, no, o, o. So your mouth is sort of doing two vowel sounds at once. How, here, bear. Anyway, they are all the vowel sounds. So they have the short, the long, and the combined ones. Let's do it again. No, we're going to skip that one. Fine, I'm happy with that. Let's move on to something that's really important for a lot of Indian speakers, South Asian speakers, not necessarily Indians, Pakistani, I'm going to say Bangalore, but I'm meaning to say Bangladeshi. Where else am I thinking? Nepalese speakers. You guys have trouble with word stress, okay? And let me explain why this is critically important that you get this right. So word stress. Let me explain this. Okay, so if we look at a word like varnish, for example. So in English we say varnish. So there's emphasis on the varnish, and it sort of tapers out there. There's more emphasis on this syllable, this part of the word varnish, than the second syllable. If I said varnish, and put the emphasis on the second syllable, and I said that on the street, do you have any varnish? People would not know what I'm talking about. So I have to say varnish. I have to get the emphasis on the right syllable. If you get the emphasis on the wrong syllable, I can't understand you. English speakers will not understand you. Neither will the PTE algorithm. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. Protective. There's a real emphasis here on the tective, protective. Again, it's not, I can't do it because I'm a native English speaker. Protective. Or if I said protective, you know, her boyfriend is very protective. That makes no sense to me. Protective makes sense. So let's take a closer look at these stress versus syllable. Okay, let me explain this to you. So some languages are stress-based languages, like English, right? And some languages are syllable-based languages. That means that the emphasis on the syllables, or each part of the word, is basically even. It's even. So think about it like this. In English, we have a kind of Morse code type of language. You know, it's you know, some are longer, some are shorter, some are longer, some are shorter, like that. Other languages are like machine gun languages. They're just like okay? And if you come from one of these machine gun languages, you're going to have a lot of difficulty moving over to using the Morse code type of style of word stress. And again, especially those South Asian speakers and Dravidian speakers. Cool. But it's critical that you get this right, because if you go into the PTE and you just stick with your syllable-based language timing, like the algorithm is going to punish you. That's probably why you're getting a low pronunciation or even low oral fluency scores. Okay? Stress is critical. A single word, one part of the word will be emphasized. So let's take a closer look at that paragraph. Okay, so here I've highlighted or made bold and underlined the part of the word that requires emphasis or stress. As I said, varnish. It's not varnish, it's varnish. It's provide. Protective. Violin. Sometimes, admittedly, it's hard to identify where the stress is. Let's look at this one. Influences. So it's influences. It's not influences. or it's not influences. Vibrations, impulses, absorbs, quality, instrument, produces, properties, varnish, chemical, composition, composition. That's an interesting one. It's very clear there, isn't it? Composition, composition, thickness. That one's emphasis, less emphasis. Penetration, important, factors. All right, your turn. Now I want you to read the paragraph and pay attention to the word stress. You might, how can I say this? You might want to kind of fake it. So if you're from a syllable timed language, try to fake it. Try to just add a little bit, shift the weight of the word to one part of the word, okay? See how you go. You have 25 seconds. Cool. How did you go sort of emphasizing specific syllables in the word? Hopefully that helped you out. That may be the missing key for a lot of you who are failing to get the speaking score you need. Okay, let's now talk about scoring and oral fluency. Before we do that, if you are not yet a subscriber to this YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button because we're going to be releasing these Methods 2.0 lessons every week or every second week. Keep in mind though that only half of these methods lessons will be on YouTube. All of the methods lessons will be on e2language.com. In fact, there's heaps of free stuff on e2language.com for you. All of these methods lessons will be nice and organized with practice questions. Even free members can sign up to live classes held by our expert teachers. Heaps of stuff on the platform, including mock tests, etc. So get off of YouTube, go to e2language.com, watch it on there. Much better. Okay, now we're talking about oral fluency, and let's talk about sentence stress. This is different than word stress. When we're talking about word stress, we're talking about a single word and one syllable, one part of the word is emphasized. When we're talking about sentence stress, we're talking about an entire sentence with words and one word is emphasized, okay? So it's kind of similar. And what sentence stress does is change the meaning. So if I place emphasis on this word, it makes it mean something slightly different than if I place the emphasis on this word, for example, or this word. Let's have a look at these sentences and I'll show you how the sentence stress changes the meaning just slightly, but importantly. So let's read the first one. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Compare that to this. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Compare that to this. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Compare that to this. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Yeah, that last one didn't work so well. But hopefully you could see the importance of emphasizing particular words in the sentence, okay? And how that sort of shifted the emphasis of the meaning within the sentence. Pretty interesting stuff, right? I guess I don't know if you've ever thought about this stuff before. We just naturally, we're basically born speaking a language. We're not quite, but pretty close to. And we never really self-reflect on what it is that we do when we're actually speaking a language and the enormous amount of complexity that is in our language as we're doing it. It's crazy. It's phenomenal. It's weird when you see like a 3-year-old child speaking with perfect grammar and amazing vocabulary and sentence stress, word stress. It's like they're 3. How did they do that? Anyway, let's practice. All right, so this time I want you to be conscious of sentence stress as you read the paragraph and try to stress the word that makes most sense in the sentence. Okay, what I think I will do here is I'm going to read this paragraph aloud. And just pay attention to the words that I emphasize, and also think back to what we've learned so far. So we looked at consonants, we looked at consonant clusters, the spr, spl, scr, for example. We looked at vowels, the short, the long, and the combined vowels. We also looked at word stress. So now we're up to sentence stress. Let me read this one aloud. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. It influences the vibrations and impulses that the wood absorbs, and therefore the quality of sound the instrument produces. The properties of the varnish, its chemical composition, thickness, and penetration into the wood are all important factors. Okay, there's a few things going on there that I want to talk about. One of them was the pace of... Actually, let me go back. Let me discuss the sentence stress first. I don't actually know which words I stressed in the sentence. What I'm really doing there is I'm just trying to read for meaning. And the more that I try and express meaning in my reading, the more that I naturally emphasize the right words in the sentence, and that's going to help my score. And we'll get to that at the end, the importance of meaning, because it's absolutely critical to everything you do. The other thing that I was doing there was the tempo or the pace of how I spoke. I think that was about right. Not too slow, not too fast. I think the tempo is about correct. So you want to finish this one, for example, in around 23 seconds, up to 25 seconds is about right. Cool. Anything else that you noticed? If you have anything to say, or if you're enjoying this or whatever, pop a comment into the comments below. It'd be interesting to know what you think of this. Okie dokie, let's push on. So let's talk now about connected speech. Okay, so there's this weird phenomenon that happens when we're naturally speaking or reading something, and that is that we do not speak like robots. When we speak, we do not put spaces between each word. What we do instead is we connect our speech up. Some words connect together into little chunks of language. So let's take a look at this. So varnish does more, does more, does more. Varnish does more than just provider. Let me get in here and draw on some of this because it's pretty crazy stuff. Does more than just provider. So this article is now joined. It's joined onto the verb here. To violin. Let me just read this sentence. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin, to a violin, to a violin, to a violin. It influences the vibrations and impulses that the wood absorbs, and therefore, in fact, I've chopped off that, and I've just said, whoops, I've just said, therefore. The quality of sound the instrument produces. The properties of the varnish, its chemical composition, thickness, and penetration into the wood are all important factors. So what's going on here is connected speech. I'm going to give you 25 seconds. I want you to still read with nice tempo, etc., but just pay attention to or be conscious of the way that you're connecting words, some words together. You may choose different words to connect than me, but basically what's happening is you're connecting those grammatical words, the articles, the prepositions, the pronouns, the auxiliary verbs, connecting them to the meaningful words, like the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, the ones that actually have meaning. You connect the little grammary ones to them like that. So that's why it's a violin, a violin, a violin. Cool. Anyway, see how you go with this. Okie dokie, we're nearly there. Let's have a quick look at pausing and rhythm, and then we'll push on. Okay, so pausing. Let's talk about pausing, because pausing is critical. The algorithm, when it's actually processing your speech, it's going to be looking for literally microseconds between particular words and between sentences, so it knows that you are actually pausing in the correct spots, all right? So I think what we'll do here is I'm going to keep the connected speech. I'm going to read this aloud, and I just want you to pay attention to the way that when I pause, and the way that I pause, and for how long I pause for. Here we go. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. It influences the vibrations and impulses that the wood absorbs, and therefore the quality of sound the instrument produces. The properties of the varnish, its chemical composition, thickness and penetration into the wood are all important factors. Okay, so I certainly paused at full stops at the end of the sentence, but only very slightly, really like, I don't know how long it is, half a second maybe? I paused at commas, so punctuation can help you out. I paused at commas for like quarter of a second maybe. But I also paused in between some words, and it's usually when you're isolating a particular meaningful word, like a noun like protective sheen, and then I'm just giving that a little bit of air on the outside, just so that the meaning can really shine through. Pretty straightforward. The other thing I was going to say, which I forgot before, was when I read this, I'm moving my hands to help me convey meaning. I'm saying varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin, okay? And on test day, you'll be sitting there, move your hands. It helps you to express the meaning. Okay, let's have a look at rhythm. All right, so what is rhythm? You can think about rhythm like a conductor at an orchestra, okay? So the conductor's doing this, and again, because English is a stress-based language, we are not a machine gun-based language. We also have intonation, so when we're asking a question, do you really do that? We sort of bring up the intonation, we go down on some things like that. Let's just call all of this stuff rhythm, and it's critical to a high score. So I want you to read one more time, and this time read it with rhythm, okay? So think about all of the stuff that we've been talking about, okay? The word stress, the sentence stress, the consonant clusters, the vowels, the diphthongs, I can't remember what else we've looked at, sentence stress, connected speech, pausing, etc. Read it like you're being conducted, and I want you to read it with hand movements as well. Express as much meaning as you possibly can. Okay, away you go. Alrightio then. So, we've just looked at all of the ingredients that make up a good read aloud, right? Good pronunciation, good oral fluency, and content, which is pretty straightforward. So, what's the method then? What's the method for this task? I'm going to break this to you. There ain't really a method. It's not one of those ones where you step-by-step sort of thing. In the later methods lessons that we produce, which again, half will be on YouTube, half will be on e2language.com, we'll go deeply into methods, okay, which are extremely helpful. Let's have a look at this one though. It's pretty straightforward. So just before we do though, if you want to take our PTE mini mock test, which is really cool, it gives you the experience, like test simulation of, you actually don't do a full PTE test. It's like a mini mock test, so we just did like one of each of the tasks. So it's shortened, but it still gives you a really good indication of the score that you'll get on test day. So if you are thinking of taking the PTE, or what else it does, which is really cool, You receive a report with grades and comments on all of the writing and speaking sections. And so what you're then able to do is drill down and focus on or identify the particular parts of the PTE or the particular tasks of the PTE that you're having trouble with. Okay, so the writing and speaking goes through to our teachers. They mark it, they send you back all this feedback, which is really cool. So check that out on e2language.com. And also, as I mentioned before, we have this cool new website called e2school.com. It has a pronunciation course, general English level 0, 1, 2, 3, free grammar review, test ready course. It's pretty radical. And I should also mention that maybe E2 School is not for you, but maybe you have family members or friends or cousins or nieces or whatever that you can send e2school.com to. It's pretty rad. All right. So the method, as we have just discussed, consonants, consonant clusters, vowels, word stress, sentence stress, connected speech, pausing, and rhythm. But if we summarize all of this up into a single purposeful statement, it is this: read with meaning. That is, when you're preparing or rehearsing, when you get that paragraph, read it, whisper it, but read it to understand it, okay? You're not saying words. If you're just saying words, you're going to miss all of those elements of oral fluency and pronunciation. If you're reading with meaning, you're going to be emphasizing, you're going to be pausing correctly, you're going to be connecting things, sentence stress, word stress. Everything comes together with that simple statement of read with meaning. By the way, everything that we've spoken about today is something that you can apply in your day-to-day life. Next time you're sort of, I don't know, just speaking with friends or perhaps giving a presentation at work, add all of these elements of this spoken English into your speech, and you'll notice that people just sort of pay attention to you because you're emphasizing things correctly. The meaning is coming through. Their ears will prick up. It's quite interesting. Cool. That's all. Check out the website if you need any more help. Thanks very much for watching. My name is Jay. I will see you soon.